Secret Wars.
Marvel supervillains are coming.
Secret Wars.
Can the Marvel superheroes stop them?
There's a new Street Fighter on your windowsill. The weapon is peace. The word is chill.
Hello there, gang, and welcome to another episode of Displaying Model Behaviour, the Earth's mightiest, or most secret, action figure video podcast. So take off your pants, crack a beer, and let's talk toys. Let's talk Secret Wars. Guys, this is the one. This is the one that you were all asking me to do. Well, far be it from me to fly in the face of public opinion. We're going to tackle Secret Wars because thanks to the Villains wave, we pretty much have enough of the roster. I was going to say the entire roster, but there are some big pieces still missing. So we'll address who that is as we go along. But guys, Secret Wars, it is a huge, big Marvel story. Possibly the first major Marvel crossover event. So let's talk about it. But before we do, if you like what you see here and you want to see more, then join the 6-1 clicks by clicking the like, share, and subscribe buttons. And if you want to go one step beyond in supporting the channel, you can go over to patreon.com/displaying model behavior. Throw a few shekels my way. So enough of the shilling, let's talk about the comics and the toys that inspired them, or the toys and the comics that inspired them. You know what I'm getting at. Let's talk Secret Wars. So cast your mind back, folks, to 1984. I can't think what to compare that to. The Terminator came out. Actually, that's something I always associate with 1984. For whatever reason, I'm like, that's when the Terminator came out. So there you go. The Terminator is blowing up the cinemas, and Marvel have made a deal with Toy Biz to do some cross-promotion type stuff that's really going to kind of change the way that we do business in the comic book and action figure world. So of course Marvel are still kind of riding high. Business is good in the 80s. It's not like amazing, but it's good. And their characters are kind of iconic. They're part of pop culture Americana. And Toy Biz had the license to make Marvel characters. So they kind of come to this arrangement. Jim Shooter, I think, was the editor-in-chief at the time. And he's like, hey, we are going to do a major crossover event that pushes all of our big money players to the forefront. And as we do that, Toy Biz, you can release a toy line of the same name, that being Secret Wars. So a bit of synergy cross-promotion. People will read about the characters in the comics, they'll see the toys on the shelf, it'll all conglomerate together and hopefully separate people from their money. And this was, quite a big deal at the time because, like I said, Marvel hadn't done big universe-spanning crossovers. They had established themselves with this great sort of notion that the Marvel universe is wonderfully interconnected. So there were lots of crossovers and one character appearing in another book and a team-up and all that sort of thing. That was well established. But this was the first time Marvel said, right, all the big guns are coming together for a special event, and boy, it was pretty special. A funny little point to note about Secret Wars itself is that apparently the name of the story came 100% from a classic marketing sort of survey meeting. They full on went, what do kids like these days? What words do kids think are exciting? And the two big ones were secret and wars. So if kids see like secret something or other, secret army supplies or secret agents, secret's cool, and then boys love war, because of course, only boys read comics and like superheroes. It's the 1980s. So of course, it's war, Action Man, G.I. Joe. So they just went, secret, war secrets. And then someone else went, how about Secret War? And I'm like, I love it. Another funny thing is that even though I was saying the comic book was designed to promote the toys and vice versa, loads of the characters from the comics don't actually get toys. And loads of the toys are not characters that appear in the comics. So there wasn't really synergy with what characters were being made, but it was the Secret Wars branding. That was the main thing. Because Secret Wars toy line had characters like Hobgoblin and various other ones that I can't spring to mind because my mind is jelly sometimes. But still, that didn't really match and mesh up. Again, there were big time characters like Enchantress and Beyonder who appear in the Secret Wars story that never got action figures. Because also this is this being the 1980s, they say, well, boys don't want to play with girl action figures, they want to play with boy action figures. Which is completely not true, but again, we're going back in time. It was a simpler time. Not better, but simpler. So therefore, the stories and the toys didn't really match up all that well, except for the big Secret Wars branding. And quite frankly, kid, it's all about the branding. So Secret Wars starts off with this character called the Beyonder, who you can see is a slightly unusual looking chap, but he is a godlike being. So we're talking unlimited cosmic power. And he is obsessed with the notion of good and evil. Very much like a later character who'd be introduced about 10 years later, a favorite of mine, Judas Traveler. Unlimited cosmic power, focused on good versus evil. Why? Who knows? It's just when you've been living for an eternity, you get bored and you're like, I wonder what the true nature of good and evil is. And he casts his disco-clad eyes over the Marvel Universe and he's like, wow, there is a real clear line in the sand between good guys and bad guys. Vince McMahon in 1997 would have hated it. He'd be like, I'm looking at the Marvel Universe and I see good guys versus bad guys. But that's what the Beyonder sees. And he's like, I wonder what side would actually win out. So he's like, you know what? I'm just going to interject myself in everyone's lives and I'm going to teleport them all onto this world that I have created. And that's exactly what he does. He appears before the Marvel Universe and he's like, to be honest, it's kind of like picking teams in gym class. And he's like, you, not you, you. And he blips them all onto his battle world. So he basically says, all right, we got the good guys over here, we got the bad guys over here. It's like a high school dance. You know, they're all lined up against the walls. And he basically just goes, fight! Not exactly. He says, slay your enemies, and your greatest desires will be yours. So it's a very flimsy premise. It really is. I think that there are some nice little nuances in the story as we go along, but generally it is just like, put all your good action figures and your bad action figures in a box and shake them up and see who wins. But it's a fun premise and we get some good stories out of it. So as you can see from the splash page, there are almost too many characters to mention. They get a whole smorgasbord of guys. So this is going to be a big team building display here. But on the heroes side, it's mainly, again, the big guns. The Avengers, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, Spider-Man, some real heavy hitters. And this was kind of an interesting little wrinkle that the Beyonder kind of put into this. On the side of the heroes, he put Magneto. And the X-Men are like, whoa, hey, what's the matter? What's going on? I don't know why they went Brooklyn all of a sudden. But they're like, why is Magneto on our side? That's not right. He's bad. He doesn't agree with what we agree with. Therefore, he's evil. And the Beyonder's like, whoa. And Magneto, of course, he has his moment of the classic villain line of, we're not so different, you and I. And Professor X is like, oh, you better believe we're different. We are so totes different. But then they have their kind of interesting little dynamic and back and forth. So even though the premise of why these characters are all together is a little flimsy, the actual character dynamics within them, that's quite interesting. So also on the heroes team, we have the Hulk as well. And this is at a time when Bruce Banner is more in control of the Hulk. So he can be reasoned with and he can work with a team, which is convenient for what's about to come. Although there's still, like with normally the case with the Hulk, he's got that kind of rage monster still just begging to be let out. So there are a few occasions where the Bruce Banner persona starts to slip and people are like, whoa, let's just everybody calm down. All right, everyone chill. And then also Sue Storm is not with the Fantastic Four because she's pregnant at the time, which it's fair enough. It fits in with continuity, but it still sort of like leans towards that idea of like, sorry, no girls allowed. Although actually we do have a couple of female characters, so it sort of evens out okay. It's just kind of funny that the whole time Reed Richards is really stressing, like, I gotta get back to my pregnant wife, like she can't possibly function without me. It's like, dude, chill out. I'm pretty sure one of the most powerful beings in the entire Marvel Universe has got this. But then we go over to the villain side, and this is a fun lineup. We've got from all different ranges and corners of the Marvel Universe. The biggest, most unusual, bizarre one is Galactus. That shows how powerful the Beyonder is. He's like, oh, one of the most powerful beings in the universe? Oh yeah, yoink! I'm gonna play with you. And Galactus is just looking around like, I don't really fit in with any of this. Also, evil? Excuse me? I'm a force of nature. I keep balance in the universe. You dick. But in fairness, he does also destroy planets. So, potato, potato. But the Galactus is kind of above this. So he's like, well, you guys fight amongst yourselves. I'm going to get to eating the planet because that's what I do. And then the rest of the villain's wave is the villain's wave. It's so Marvel Legends vocabulary. First of all, we have the Wrecking Crew. And I wish we could get a new Wrecking Crew because I'm not going to spend the money on buying the old Wrecking Crew. If you want to get all 4 of those guys, you're looking to spend probably up to about $200. Like, no way. Just Hasbro, please give us a new Wrecking Crew. I would love to have those guys on my shelf because they're just big and chunky and fun. And then, of course, we've got Ultron. So, yes, we have the new Villains Wave Ultron. Love this dude with the Kirby crackle. He looks the absolute business. Then we've got a few others from here and there. We've got characters that I don't necessarily have in Legends form, like the Enchantress. She's a Thor villain. She's in love with Thor, but kind of like a female Loki. Just kind of bad to the bone, but also like occasionally a little bit redeemable. Sometimes being a god-type character, it's like she's above the whole concept of good and evil. She just likes toying with people, you know? So the villains team has got some big time heavy hitters. One of the main ones being a dude that I'm not that familiar with, the Molecule Man. And he's not really evil as such per se. He's a bit more of that sort of force of nature, but also he's not mentally well. Yeah, he has some serious issues that he's trying to figure out and work out. Not everything is connected, basically. The elevator doesn't go all the way to the top. He's not wrapped too tight, which is difficult because he also has the ability to control molecules, which is basically everything. So he's kind of Dr. Manhattan. He's just, so powerful that he can't really handle it. And that's something that he is constantly aware of. He's like, I don't want to destroy all of existence, but I might do because I'm kind of the Molecule Man. So he's sort of a wild card. Ha! Wild card, bitches!
Wild card, bitches! Yeah!
That's who the Molecule Man is. So it's a pretty crazy lineup we've got. So as you would imagine, pretty much instantly the villains begin fighting amongst themselves. The main instigator being Ultron, that crotchety robot. He's like, I'm a robot. My whole thing is that I hate living organic beings. And all of y'all are living and organic beings. And quite frankly, I don't care about good or bad. You're all bad to me, so screw you guys. I'm going home. And what happens is Doctor Doom, first of all, again, it's a great little example of Doctor Doom being the cerebral, manipulative type person. He's like, Molecule Man, you could totally unmake Ultron right now. Because Ultron's like, maybe I'll just kill you all first though. Because I'm freaking Ultron. It's what I do. That's what I do. And the Molecule Man's like, I'm all conflicted, too much power, what am I going to do? But fortunately, the problem is sort of resolved by itself because Galactus, he has Ultron and he's like, not too impressed with you, pal. And that's quite a thing because Ultron at this point is made of adamantium. So he is a big time player. It's not that easy to do any damage to him. The whole point is that adamantium is indestructible. So Ultron thinks he's got his game on, But unfortunately for him, Galactus is able to actually literally just take his life force from him and then okay, done with that now. So that's Ultron written out of the story, but at least he makes an appearance and I get to show off his Marvel Legend because it's a baller figure. But then Galactus doesn't last very long either because the Beyonder, sort of showing off his power, he gets into a bit of a tussle with the big G-Man and literally knocks him on his ass. And that's another way of showing just how much of a big money player this is. The Beyonder gets what I would call the Brock Lesnar push. Just come in and clean house, and it's like walking to the prison yard and being like, who's the toughest guy here? I'm about to stake my claim. So Galactus is laid out for most of the story from this point on. And then rather than looking like a shining example as to how things should be done, the heroes start fighting amongst themselves as well, because of course Magneto is there with them, and they're like, well, Magneto, you can't be here, like this is not cool, like we're the good guys, alright? And clearly we are the arbitrary people who decide what is good and what is not. You're in the wrong place, pal, you can't sit with us. And then of course the X-Men are like, whoa, 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 whoa. Are you sure you're not just saying that because he's a mutant? And I think the rest of the humans are like, oh god, guys, why have you got to make it all about mutants? Like, it's not that he's a mutant, it's that he's murdered many people. But then they get in a whole scuffle and kerfuffle about it. And again, it's just another reason why it's like, I love the X-Men. I'm an X-Men fan, but at the same time, it's like, guys, why have you got to make it all about mutation? It's like Magneto is a bad guy because he's a bad guy, not because he's a mutant. All right, but still, they get in some fights and tussles. So really, things do not take long to kick off. The place they're in is called Battle World, and battle is what they're gonna do. So, after the initial scuffle, huffle and kerfuffle, the two teams, the good guys and the bad guys, go off to their sort of individual bases to kind of game plan and figure out what's what. And this is where we get some more interesting dynamics on the good guy side of things. Magneto is still with them at this point. And of course now the X-Men are sort of saying amongst themselves like, well, maybe we are wrong to say like what's good and what's evil. Maybe we should be working with Magneto, and Magneto is off doing his own thing. He's with them on their base, but he's kind of keeping to himself. And this is where things take an unusual turn, is that he kind of hooks up with the Wasp. And that's very sort of, I'm not sure if it's like out of character for the Wasp, because I'm not a big Avengers reader, but it seems like, wow, okay, that's a little bit out of left field, I suppose. He does his whole bad guy thing. And what can I say? Chicks dig jerks. It's just the way that it is. You know? I never seem to understand women's little quirks. Just one thing I know for sure is chicks dig jerks. So the Wasp hooks up with Magneto, and they have a weird kind of thing going on here. And it's also a little bit Stockholm syndrome-y. He's like, you know, you're not captive here, obviously. You could leave anytime you wish. But I don't think you're going to. He's smooth. He's a Silver Fox Magneto. And then Spider-Man. This is quite an egregious sort of thing, but it's fun as well. Spider-Man sees the X-Men talking about like, well, maybe we should team up with Magneto. Maybe he's not that bad. Maybe we can look past the fact that he's murdered a bunch of people. And Spidey's like, whoa, hey, that's not cool. I'm gonna lay down the law. And Spider-Man single-handedly takes out the X-Men. And for a lot of fans, that was like, whoa, come on. Seriously, we love Spider-Man. He's awesome. But the whole point of Spider-Man is like, he's an everyman. He's often an underdog. He shouldn't be defeating the entire X-Men team. And again, speaking of the Brock Lesnar push, this isn't like a Brock Lesnar push. This is the push of like a guy who's been around for a long time, and now they're re-pushing him. And they even have like all the X-Men going, wow, Spider-Man's too fast, he's too awesome, we can't get a beat on him, he's just so incredibly badass. It's like, you hear that, reader? You hear that? Spider-Man's awesome, you love Spider-Man. Guys, we don't need you to tell us that we love Spider-Man. It's Spider-Man, like, that will do. But still, they have him job out the X-Men, and probably in one of the more amusing moments, just push Xavier out of his wheelchair, be like, that's you done with now. So he has this fight with the X-Men, and then he rushes off to tell Reed Richards. They're like, Reed, the X-Men are going to team up with Magneto, those damn dirty mutants. And Reed would be like, whoa, hey, I didn't know this was a side of you. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, that's my grandfather talking. He didn't say that. But it was kind of amusing that he was like, Reed, I have to tell you, I can't remember. And then we see Xavier has wiped his mind, and Xavier's like, whew, didn't want to have to do that, don't like invading the minds of other people, because I'm a good guy. But still, Spider-Man had to have a little bit of brain damage applied to him. So Spidey forgot what he was supposed to tell Reed Richards. So let's go over to the villain side of things now, and Dr. Doom has got his own agenda going on. He wants to steal the power of the Molecule Man. That's what, Doom is like a magpie of superpowers. He's like, ooh, shiny, I want that. If it's not the power cosmic from Galactus or the Silver Surfer, it's the Molecule Man's crazy godlike powers. So he kind of buddies up with Molecule Man. He's like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? You're a cool guy. You and me, we should hang out. We'd be best friends. Come on, why don't you trust me? The guy with the metal face and the horrible scars, like, we could be buds. And Molecule Man's like, yeah, I guess we could. So they're hanging out together, but Molecule Man, very amusingly, is like, you know what? I've realized there's a problem with this place. And Doom's like, what's that? We're best bros. We're hanging out. You want to play Nintendo? It's like, yeah, but it's kind of a sausage fest around here, you know? Where are the chicks? Where are the ladies? And Doom's like, don't worry. I got this one for you. So he literally just beams up these two ladies from Earth. And these are the ladies who will become Volcana and Titania. Yes, I think. So these are two ne'er-do-well type ladies. They're street punks. They're up to no good. And Doom is like, well, hey, not only am I going to blip you here to keep this guy company, but I'm going to give you some superpowers as well. So I say they're Titania and Volcana. I don't know what their original names were, but Doom roids them up with some super soldier crazy Doom powers. So we get our two new villainesses, Volcana and Titania. And of course, Molecule Man sees them and he's like, ooh, wah, very nice. Yes, I'm bringing back Borat impressions. It's been over a decade. We can start doing that now, alright? So he actually falls for Volcana, and again, this is playing more into Doom's hands. He's having a good time with this. So he's like, hey, you know what would be super cool? If you threw a continent at the heroes. And Molecule Man's like, yeah, okay. And he literally molecule powers a island continent from Battleworld to fall on the heroes. That's pretty much a scorched earth approach to taking care of problems. But luckily, and this is an iconic scene now, the Hulk is with them, and the Hulk holds up the continent. Completely ridiculous, but also kind of cool. The madder Hulk gets, the stronger Hulk gets. There is no upper limit to his strength. And also, it's not like he's literally holding up the continent, because that's not how physics work. He's just holding like a dome over the other heroes and stuff. So it kind of does make sense. Because let's face it, if one person held up a continent, the continent would just fall around them. Which is what actually happened. So people say, oh, Hulk held up a continent. No, he didn't. He just made like a safe space. This was a safe space before safe spaces were safe spaces. But it was a great standout moment for the Hulk. So luckily for the heroes, Reed Richards is able to get them out from under the mountain. He has like a drilling equipment type sort of thing, so he gets them out of that little bit of a pickle. And then they discover this whole race of indigenous creatures that are living on Battleworld. What it turns out is that Battleworld, made by the Beyonder, he's basically just plucked a whole bunch of civilizations from the universe and the galaxy and just smooshed them together. So it is a complete mismatch of all these different places and cultures and planets and races. It's almost rhyming there. But still, we meet these people, and they are healers. They have magical healing abilities, which is fine, because it advances the story and gives us some healing stuff. Don't know where I was going with that. But first of all, one of the healers, I forget her name, but she helps the Human Torch, Johnny Storm. She heals him up and gets him back in shape, and he goes gaga for her. He falls head over heels and he's like, I love you. And we get a kind of a love triangle type thing, because also the healer heals up Colossus. And Colossus is like, oh, I love you. Even though he's dating Shadowcat at the time. That's a little bit, let's not talk about that. But still, it's like, hey, look, we're on a stag, all right? What goes on tour stays on tour. But Colossus falls for her as well. And Johnny Storm just kind of sort of loses interest in her. It's a weird, funny little fickle pickle kind of thing. He is, obsessed with her a bit. And then all of a sudden he sees, his friends are in danger and the Fantastic Four and stuff. And he's like, I don't have time for this. I got to go and focus on this. And Colossus is like, well, I'm in a similar situation. In fact, I have a girlfriend back home, but, she lives over in Canada. She goes to a different school. We're in different postcodes now, so I love you. And yeah, that makes an interesting little wrinkle in the character of Colossus, and we have a love triangle that never was. It was like a love line that then goes in a different direction. So another interesting little wrinkle in the story is that Ben Grimm, the Thing, creates or discovers the ability to turn into his human form and back again. And he's like, oh my god, this is crazy. Sweet Aunt Petunia, I can turn into the Thing and the human thing. This is great. And I think that the reasons behind that, it wasn't 100% clear, but it seems like obviously the whole crux of Secret Wars is that the winning team will get their greatest desire. And it seems like Ben's greatest desire is to be able to become human again. And it seems like for whatever reason, he's been able to kind of like draw that ability from the battle world itself. So he's kind of jumped the queue in a way, and he's now able to go from orange rock to human form and back and forth, and it's a good time for Ben Grimm. Obviously doesn't last because these things never do, but it's fun to see him enjoy that, at least for a short period of time.
What is it, Colonel? Snake, I've been speaking with Otacon, and we need to change the mission parameters.
Run into something unexpected?
We need you to go to patreon.com/displaying model behavior and subscribe.
Patreon? Is that like Metal Gear?
No, but it does contain exclusive videos that only Patreon subscribers can see.
A real for your eyes only mission, huh? I'm logging in and subscribing now.
Snake, wait. Before you start watching the videos, you need to finish the original mission. Snake? Snake? Snake!
The Model Behavior Patreon. Kept you waiting, huh?
Then we have a huge big battle. Finally, Secret Wars and Battle World live up to their names, and it's the heroes and the villains, and they're all fighting. And this is where we finally get to the introduction of the symbiote costume, the black costume. We get symbiotes introduced to the Marvel Universe. Boy, they have become a thing all of their own now, but this is where it started. So we have the character of Spider-Woman, Spider-Woman 2, Jessica Carpenter. Julia Carpenter. Jessica Drew, Julia Carpenter. It always gets me. But it's Julia Carpenter is Spider-Woman 2, and she has this badass Spider-Woman costume that looks like the black costume. It's black with the white spider emblem on there. And then after this big battle the heroes have with the villains, they discover this room with this costume repairing machine. And in fairness to hokey writing, Battle World, the whole point of Battle World is that it has all these different things that the heroes and villains might find useful in their fight. So it makes sense that there might be a costume repairing machine. So Spider-Man is all torn and tattered, and he bumps into Thor, and Thor was all bashed up as well with a bashed up helmet and all that kind of thing, and he says, "Verily, Spider-Man, there is a costume fixing machine in yonder building. Go fix up your costume, because, to be honest, mate, state of your costume." So Spider-Man's like, "Hey, heads up, thanks for that, cheers." So he goes to what he thinks is the costume fixing machine, but unfortunately it is not. It is a machine that houses and contains the symbiote. So he presses the button and the symbiote goes onto him, and he's like, "Whoa!" That's the Spider-Man pose from that. Whoa! He's got the symbiote. And he just assumes that, like, oh, this is a new costume it's given me. And he thinks, and this is what a lot of people don't sort of realize, I didn't find out until years later, but the reason why it looks like that, or he thinks the reason why it looks like that, is because he just saw Julia Carpenter in her Spider-Woman costume, and he was like, oh, subconsciously, I think that's a really cool design. This thing must have read my mind and gone, oh, you like that design? I'm going to give you this design. So that's why he thinks it looks like that. Of course, later, it was somewhat retconned to be that, the spider logo is the null symbol. That's not a spider, it's a dragon with wings. I think that's kind of a cool sort of retcon. And still, it makes sense that maybe it was more of the symbiote Lord of Darkness null type design, and then it was Spider-Man's subconscious that tweaked it into the Julia Carpenter sort of look. And also in a Deadpool series, which is like Deadpool Secret Wars, it turns out Deadpool was there the whole time, but no one remembers. And Deadpool got the symbiote first, and it was being bonded to Deadpool that drove it crazy. So that's a fun little wrinkle there. I don't know if that's 100% in continuity, but I'll take it. And that is the origin of the black costume. Also, as a very interesting little note, Iron Man at this time in 1984 is not that much of a big deal. He's still one of their kind of standalone heroes, but nowadays, of course, Iron Man is like the franchise of the MCU and Marvel Comics in general. I mean, hey, look, you can argue Spider-Man will always be the number one character, but let's face it, if there is a big universe-spanning crossover, you can be pretty sure that Iron Man's going to be front and center. But in 1984, that was not so much the case, and funnily enough, Tony Stark isn't even in this story, because inside the Iron Man armor, it is Jim Rhodes, Rhodey. He is masquerading as Tony Stark. I would imagine the Iron Man has like a voice modulator kind of thing, so they wouldn't know. And also, I think at the time, Tony Stark is not publicly known as being Iron Man. I think Iron Man is still like his bodyguard. So Jim Rhodes is in there, and he doesn't want anyone to know that he's not the real Iron Man. And he has a healthy distrust of the other heroes, and it's kind of an interesting sort of dynamic. He's like, I'm not sure if I can really trust these guys. Would they turn on me if they knew that I wasn't Tony Stark? Or, like, in fairness, they maybe should not trust me because I am sort of being I am trying to mislead them. So that's a kind of a funny dynamic. And also, he starts to develop a bit of a romance with Captain Marvel, who is Spectrum, Monica Rambeau at the time. So that's a fun excuse to bring out the Monica Rambeau figure, although, of course, she's got a different costume. She's got more of the Captain Marvel type costume. But those two characters are there, and again, you see how diverse this roster lineup is. There are so many figures in here. This really was Marvel going, you know what? Let's just throw everything at this story. And it becomes huge, but it's really fun to see so many characters all interacting, often for the first time. So now things really start to step up a notch, because Doctor Doom is about to enact, I was going to say his great scheme, but let's face it, Doctor Doom always has multiple schemes going on. He's got all these scheme plates spinning that he's trying to keep in the air. So not only was he hoping to manipulate the Molecule Man, which, let's face it, he did that pretty successfully, he was like, nah, I want the power of the Beyonder. Again, freaking Magpie just always wants the superpowers. So he actually allows Galactus to try and steal the power of the Beyonder, because that was Galactus's intention as well. So Galactus is like, alright, well, I'm about to eat this planet, but first of all, I'm gonna take your power, and that's when Doom strikes. And it's a great example of Doom just being a badass who's always one step ahead. So Galactus goes to steal the Beyonder's power, and Doom basically uses Galactus as a siphon to take the Beyonder's power and draw it into himself. So Doom, edit that. I won't edit it. Doom gains the powers of the Beyonder. Galactus totally gets jobbed out in that one. It's like, hey, thanks for helping out with that. Yoink! And Doctor Doom, his face is, he remakes his face, because of course he has the powers of a god. He can do whatever he wants. So yeah, his face is all healed up, the mask is off, and Doom stands triumphant for a while. So of course the Beyonder, being a godlike being, is not gonna be cool with having his power stolen by Doctor Doom. So it looks like he is gone, but he ain't gone nowhere, because the Hulk starts acting a little bit funny, a little bit iffy, which in fairness, it's the Hulk. So people are kind of used to that. But what it actually turns out is that the Beyonder is still in a kind of a cosmic energy type form, and he is basically hiding out in different characters, biding his time, because he knows, like, okay, this was kind of humbling. I somewhat got my ass handed to me by what is technically a human. So I'm a little bit rocked right now, and I don't know if I am ready to try and take that power back from Doom, because he might just do the same. So the Beyonder's hiding out in the background, possessing different people. And Doom is just like, unlimited cosmic power. So the heroes are all bound together, and they're like, look, yo, we can't let Doom keep this power. This ain't cool. Like, we're heroes. We might not, feel that we deserve this power, but I can tell you one thing, Doctor Doom definitely shouldn't have it. So we've all got to bound together and, we're dead. Because, Doom knows what they're doing. He knows what they're planning. He has the powers of a god, and he hits them with just this crazy burst of energy, and it's like, you're dead. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching Secret Wars. No, we're not done here, but it was kind of bold and fun and interesting that Dr. Doom was like, yeah, I've got the powers of a god, y'all are against me, so yeah, bye-bye. But that's not the end. So, as you can imagine, Dr. Doom is sat back feeling kind of smug. He's like, well, that's the end of that chapter. And this whole time, I didn't mention, but Claw, the Black Panther villain, the sound wave guy, you know, Andy Serkis. I tried to do, there you go. Now I've done my Andy Serkis voice. I didn't quite have it done properly, but now I can talk like Andy Serkis and talk about cuttlefish. So, Claw, he turns to Dr. Doom, and wow, I'm getting way ahead of myself here. Claw is now possessed by the Beyonder. So the Beyonder's power, energy, essence has been jumping to the different people. It's now possessing Claw. So Claw is Dr. Doom's kind of right-hand man in this scenario, because he's like, hey, you got the powers of a god. I'm going to back you up here. So he was kind of in Doom's inner circle, and now the Beyonder has possessed Claw. So Doom's won. He's killed everyone. But the Beyonder, this is quite a tricky one here. He tells Doom as Claw, he's like, well, how do you know that you've actually defeated all the enemies? And Doom's like, well, of course I've defeated them. They're dead. I hit them with a bolt of energy. They're gone. And Claw, using his ability to create objects out of sound, he actually paints a picture as to what could have happened. But of course, it's the Beyonder doing it. You still with me? He's like, okay, but bear with me on this one, all right? What if, yes, you think that you killed all your enemies, but what if that healing chick from before, what if she turns up and hey, maybe she finds Colossus, and because Colossus turned into his organic metal form, he's still alive. So she can heal him, and then she can heal Reed Richards, because Reed Richards is made out of elastic, so then he can heal both of them, and then he can get all the other heroes, and they can be all healed, and then you're right back where you started. And the clever thing is, Dr. Doom is like, son of a bitch. Because now that you've put this idea in my head, and I have the powers of a god, then how do I know that I have not subconsciously made this happen? Because you made me think of it! And that's actually a really fun wrinkle. So chances are, that never happened. But because he was pitching that idea, what we read about, it actually did happen, because Doom subconsciously made it happen. And I was like, that's a really fun little wrinkle to add. And then, of course, Mjolnir whoop-um, shows up, and Doom's like, oh, you son of a bitch. Because it's like, damn it, the one thing I didn't want to happen. I really like the way that they kind of did that story. I thought that was so clever. So the heroes are attacking Dr. Doom, and this is where the Beyonder can kind of make his move. As Claw, he says, hey, don't worry, I can help you, I can fight with you. All you gotta do is just give me some of that sweet, sweet Beyonder power, alright? And Doom, surprisingly, a bit of a trusting idiot on this one, but then again, maybe when you've got so much power, you think you're untouchable. And that's why he was like, yeah, go on, you can have some of my Beyonder power. So the Beyonder has got some of his power back. And in the meantime, we're having a huge big fight, and this is another really cool thing that I like. I love mental manipulation, and we have Captain America fighting Dr. Doom, and of course, it's just Cap against godlike Doom. So of course, Doom kills him, but because now he has this seed of doubt in his head, he keeps thinking, I've killed you. But what if you're not really dead? What if you come back? And he brings Captain America back without even meaning to. He's like, I can't believe every time I kill you, I think that you're probably not dead. Of course you're going to come back. You're a bloody hero in the Marvel Universe. So Cap keeps on getting killed and resurrected because Doom can't get over this brain fart that the heroes always come back. I thought that was really clever. So in all this kerfuffle, with Doom getting frustrated and off his game, that's where the Beyonder is able to strike, and he reabsorbs his power from Dr. Doom. He's like, yeah, okay, party's over, daddy's home, this is mine, I'm taking it back. So the Beyonder takes back his power from Doom and atomizes Doom and Claw, obliterates them, or at least that's what it looks like. But of course, that's not actually what happens. He just teleports them back to Earth. That was very benevolent of him. Maybe he thought to himself, you know what? In a millennia or eternity or however long I've been alive, I don't count birthdays, no one has got the better of me. You know, like that was impressive. And of course, this whole thing with the Beyonder, like, let's face it, he's just doing this because he's bored. So to actually be challenged and beaten by someone, I would imagine he'd be like, wow, haven't felt that before. That's different. So that's probably why he spared Doom. I don't know why exactly, but it makes sense. So Doom and Claw get teleported back to Earth. So with Doom gone, the heroes have effectively won. The villains are like, okay, right, we're out of here. they cut and run, and the good guys are victorious. They've won the day. They've got the Beyonders prize, and it's all sunshine and rainbows, but sunshine and non-specific rainbows, because you would have thought like people's greatest desires being granted, that's like a paradigm-changing storyline, and it's not really. And they don't even really kind of go into that. It's the Vince McMahon lockbox. It's all these stories that are like, it's based on this MacGuffin, but we're not actually going to do anything about it. I think the heroes are just like, look, okay, it would be nice to have our greatest desires, but also can we just go home? It's been a lot. This has been a long weekend. It's really been a lot. That's why we're not going to talk about this when we get back. That's why these wars are going to be secret, because I'm so over this. So some wishes are granted. Professor X can walk again, and that was an interesting sort of dynamic, because Storm was the leader of the X-Men at the time, and she's like, well, I look forward to continuing my reign as leader of the X-Men. And Professor X is like, well, let me stop you there, because he's like, well, I can walk again, so we might have to discuss this. And then there are some various other people get a few things, but off the top of my head, like, I really can't even think what they are, so it's a bit nebulous. The people don't really get their ultimate desires, you know? But then Reed Richards is like, hey, I've made a machine that can teleport us all back home, so double thumbs up there. She-Hulk comes out and she's like, hey, I've made myself a Fantastic Four costume. Little bit presumptuous, but there you go. And Ben Grimm, I think obviously he must say this before she says that, he's like,
Hey, you know what? I don't think that if I go back to Earth, I'm gonna be able to still be Human Thing. So I'm gonna stay here and be Human Thing, because I'm assuming that this is the only place I can be Human Thing.
And everyone's like, isn't that a bit presumptuous? You don't like want to try it?
No. I'll just stay here. That way we don't have to change the name scheme for the Fantastic Four. We just have She-Hulk instead.
That doesn't last for long, but it's just another way of kind of changing up the roster. And then Colossus, of course, he fell in love with the healer lady. She's dead now, though, which is lucky for him, because he can go back to Shadowcat. And Lockheed was there as well, and he can be like, hey, Lockheed, best not talk about that whole healer thing, yeah? And Lockheed's like, I'm a dragon, what am I gonna say? So that's the end of Secret Wars! There you go, did you enjoy it? It was a hell of a run, and it still kind of stands a test of time as an iconic Marvel story. Was it, like, really well written? Not especially. There were fun elements. It was a fun ride. It was a roller coaster, and certainly made some stories and characters and images that last the test of time. So that's really, really cool. But yeah, it's super epic, and I just love stories that just mash all the heroes and villains in together. So guys, what did you think of Secret Wars? Comment below, let me know. And if you like what you see here and you want to see more, then join the 6-1 Clicks by clicking the like, share, and subscribe buttons. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes of Displaying Model Behaviour. And if you want to go one step further and become a savior of model behavior, just like these guys right here, you can do by going over to patreon.com/displaying model behavior, where you can watch a whole bunch of extra videos and also brag to your friends that you're giving money to some stranger over in England so he can buy more toys. So guys, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, keep displaying model behavior.
Cheers.